top stories tonight in Y News. House Speaker Martin Romualdez supports the passage of Maharlika Investment Fund bill, says it will address the power crisis and agriculture needs of the country. The Department of National Defense expresses concern on the reported swarming of Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea. Former cabinet members of the Duterte administration stand firm in a Senate inquiry that they never refused to conduct a special audit on the COVID-19 vaccine purchases of the government. And Taiwan's defense ministry reports 18 bomber aircraft sent to their air defense identification zone by China. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, December 14, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media channels. I am Kat Dumaraos. First in the news. House Speaker Martin Romualdez reiterated his support for the passage of Maharlika Investment Fund bill, but the House leader is leaving it up to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on whether or not the latter will certify the proposed wealth fund as an urgent piece of legislation. Nel Maribuhok reports.
The proposed Maharlika Investment Fund or MIF may be tapped by the government to address the power crisis and agriculture needs of the country. In an interview with the press on the sidelines of the ASEAN-EU Commemorative Summit in Brussels, Belgium, House Speaker Martin Romualdez pointed out that the purpose of a sovereign wealth fund is to provide the capital and the vehicle for which can bring further development and benefits to the people.
We have a lot of other ideas on how to use this fund to actually help the power crisis, the agricultural needs of the country.
Contained in the House Bill number 6608, the proposed MIF pools funds from different government financial institutions to create seed money that would then be used for investments here and abroad. The House Speaker said the bill has the backing of at least two-thirds of the members of the House of Representatives. He added that he wants President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to certify his proposed measure for the creation of the Maharlika Wealth Fund as urgent.
He asked me, I said, yeah, why don't we just certify it as urgent so that if you go to Davos, we can at least talk about, having a sovereign wealth fund passed through the House of Representatives, and that will be a very, very exciting thing.
The urgent certification from the President will allow the lawmakers to pass the bill on the second and third reading on the same day instead of waiting for the 3-day gap. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Office of the Vice President, or OVP, now has a total of 84 partner hospital and dialysis center to its list of service providers for their medical assistance program. It is composed of public and private hospitals and dialysis centers nationwide, which would help OVP to expanding its social services, such as medical and burial assistance to indigent Filipinos across the country. As of December 9, the OVP's Public Assistance Division has facilitated at least 15,456 beneficiaries with aid amounting to more than 156 million under its medical and burial assistance program since June 30 this year. Aside from the OVP Central Office in Mandaluyong, inpatient and outpatient beneficiaries may avail the said aid through the 7 OVP satellite offices, particularly in Bacolod, Cebu, Dagupan, Davao City, Surigao, Tacloban, and Zamboanga. OVP has emphasized that the free public assistance application form are available in its central and satellite offices and could only be used by clients requesting for such services. The petitions against the Republic Act 11479 or the anti-terrorism law of 2022 were among the most controversial cases decided by the Supreme Court. Chief Justice Alexander Jasmundo said they will promulgate rules on how to handle anti-terrorism cases when they arrive in judicial process. This is to ensure protection of people's rights and the Senate and the state. A committee led by former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Puno is drafting the rules.
So we want to make sure that there are specific rules governing the anti-terrorism cases so that the rights of people are respected. The right of the state is also equally protected. And this is quite a tough rule that we are trying to promulgate right now.
The House Committee on Constitutional Amendments has begun its hearings on the filed bills seeking for constitutional amendments. The House panel vows to conduct a thorough deliberation and will not rush through with the discussions. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Lawmakers during the hearing of the House Committee on Constitutional Amendments reiterated the importance of thorough discussions regarding the proposed charter change. There are currently 9 measures filed in Congress which seeks to amend the 1987 Constitution.
It is our duty in the committee to hear the measures that were filed.
One of the measures filed is House Bill number 4926 of Camarines Sur 2nd District Representative El Rey Villafuerte. The said bill seeks to introduce political and economic reform. It will remove the constitutional prohibition on foreign ownership of land and restrictions on foreign investment on economy, education, and mass media. The House panel, chaired by Cagayan de Oro 2nd District Representative Rufus Rodriguez, will also discuss the resolution of both houses, proposing amendments to change the President and the Vice President's term to 5 years with possible re-election. Gabriela Party List Representative Arlene Brosas, however, raises concerns over the timeline for the deliberations on the said proposals.
As a manifestation, huwag po sanang madaliin yung pagdidiskusyon dito. At pakinggan natin yung lahat ng sektor at hindi lang po dito sa Kongreso, hindi mas importante po sa labas kung ano ang kanilang mga pagtingin at pag-unawa dito sa mga measures na gusto natin ipasa.
Brosas hopes that the filed bills on charter change will not fall similar to previous House bills that only took 3 days until it was discussed in the plenary. Rodriguez, meanwhile, allayed concerns, assuring there will be thorough deliberations.
Brosas, this will be discussed thoroughly. All organizations and persons interested to participate in the committee hearings will be welcome.
The next hearing on charter change by the House panel will be held every week beginning January 26, 2023. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Senator Robin Padilla condemned the alleged systemic and widespread killings against Moro civilians in Mindanao following the attack of 3 Muslim students by Labayong police personnel in Sultan Kudarat on December 1st. Padilla, during his privileged speech on Tuesday, December 13, called on the Senate leadership to investigate the extrajudicial killings, or EGK, of 80 Moro civilians from Region 12 allegedly by goons in the Philippine National Police and vigilantes since 2007. This is based on the June 2020 statement made by the Bangsamoro Transition Authority Parliament regarding the EGK of Moro civilians and former members of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF. The 3 students named as Samanoden Ali, Horton Ansa Jr., and Arshad Ansa were shot and killed after they allegedly fired at police officers who tried to stop them at a checkpoint in Lambayong, Sultan Kudarat. Meanwhile, Lambayong Police Chief Major Janamil Tanasao told that the cops were prompted to retaliate after the 3 students fired at them during the chase at the checkpoint. There were witnesses, Padilla said, who belied the claims of the police. Senator Padilla said there were witnesses who belied the report of the police that the students have eluded a checkpoint and there were firearms, grenades, and shabu recovered from the tree. Padilla calls for a probe to find out what really happened, with a goal to intensify peace and provide protection to the communities of Moro civilians. The Supreme Court is expected to release social media rules for lawyers. Dante Amento tells us why.
Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Marbek Leonen disclosed that he recently noticed some social media posts of lawyers. The posts allegedly contain document on the cases they are handling and even communication with their clients.
Yung selfie, di ba? Meron tayong mga selfie. Okay lang yan, mag-selfie kayo. But lately, we have been noticing that a lawyer would post a letter from a client na tuwang-tuwa sa kanya. O kaya magpo-post siya ng pleading na kapafile niya. Siguro mga bagong abogado to, excited sila.
Justice Leonen stressed these are prohibited under the professional conduct of lawyers.
Absolutely prohibited by our canons that a lawyer posts any communication from a client, including a text message nagpapasalamat sa kanya, including legal fees. Kasi may nakita ko, nagpakita siya ng hamper yata yon na binigay ng kanyang kliyente just to magyabang na nagpapasalamat yung kanyang client.
Leonen added, lawyers making such acts can face disbarment.
Once you post, you are actually opening to third parties your communication, and that's actionable. So the tolerance of the Supreme Court on this has been stretched, I think, and sooner or later baka merong isa o dalawa na baka file ng disbarment case because they have actually violated their attorney-client privilege.
The Supreme Court also advises lawyers to refrain from making comments over pending cases in court and should respect the judiciary. Chief Justice Alexander Hismundo, meanwhile, said that they will release rules for lawyers on how to use the social media. These rules will undergo some consultations with stakeholders.
The use of social media by lawyers, there are provisions on that. Let's see the final version after we have finalized the consultations with other stakeholders. And we will present to the public the final draft before approving it.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, suspends the issuance of sanitary and phytosanitary import clearances. This is specifically for round cod, bonito, moonfish, mackerel, pompano, and tuna products. The order is for the importation of the said species for canning, processing, and institutional buyers, except those who will comply with the strict guidelines of the agency. Agriculture Deputy Spokesperson said that this measure is to prevent the diversion of frozen fish to wet markets. DA previously allowed the importation of 25,000 metric tons of fish that will augment the local supply during the implementation of the fishing ban in some areas in the country.
Kasi that is included already in the 25,000 metric tons na import natin direct sa market. Pinayagan natin. Pag dinoble-doble natin yan, ang lumalabas yan, magkadoble-doble sa market, sasagana na naman, sira na naman tayo, sasabihin na ng daming smuggled.
Former cabinet members of the Duterte administration stood firm in a Senate inquiry that they never refused to conduct a special audit on the COVID-19 vaccine purchases of the government. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee opened its own inquiry on the supposed non-disclosure of COVID-19 vaccine purchase documents. Former officials of the Duterte administration denied that they refused to disclose the vaccine procurement documents to the Commission on Auditor COA due to the non-disclosure agreement, or NDA. COA Chairperson Gamaliel Cordoba, during his confirmation hearing last month, said that former Health Secretary Francisco Duque III declined to submit the documents, citing confidentiality clause with vaccine suppliers. Former vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. explained that the NDA is a requirement of vaccine manufacturers in its supply agreements. The former official noted they had no choice at the time as they were racing against time to secure limited vaccine supplies.
The CDA, the confidential agreement, is only not allowed to be disclosed in public. But we never said that we will not allow COA to look at it. In fact, we did not sign contracts to 3 of the manufacturers because they don't want to have the transparency and disclosure agreement with the World Bank and the ADB.
Duque, for his part, said that they repeatedly requested to COA as early as 2021 to conduct a special audit as a requirement of international lending institutions, including World Bank and Asian Development Bank.
We have had a total of 14 letters and correspondences that covers ranging from request for special audit, request for performance audit, proposed timelines and deadlines for the completion and reporting out of the audit report by COA.
COA confirmed that the Health Department itself requested for the special audit. However, they received redacted documents.
Because the people that will be involved in the audit are the very same people or auditors who are auditing or conducting the regular audit. We cannot promise them the report to be submitted by June 30. So we instead agreed to the audit if they will agree to a September deadline.
DOH officer in charge, Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara, emphasized that under the confidentiality clauses with vaccine manufacturers, they are required to inform the pharmaceutical companies and ask for their permission before disclosing the vaccine deals for audit or legal purposes. Vergara noted that Pfizer agreed, but only if COA will uphold the NDA. AstraZeneca also agreed. However, Sinovac declined, while Moderna did not answer.
Pfizer responded to us specifically stating that we can disclose, but COA has to uphold also the confidentiality agreement. And during that time, in December of last year, COA responded to us that they cannot uphold this agreement because apparently COA stated that they are not covered by this agreement, only DOH and the manufacturer. So we were not able to provide them with those documents before.
Vergara vowed that they will submit the complete and unredacted version of the vaccine purchase documents to the audit body on Thursday, December 15. The Senate panel will call for another hearing and an executive session next year.
Ang purpose naman natin dito is to make everything transparent, malaman ng taong bayan kung bakit natapon, nasayang, nag-expire yung 44 million doses. May dahilan. Ang nabanggit na dahilan ay ito yung mga naunang binili.
A total of 44 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines were wasted, bulk of which came from the procurements of the private sector and local government units. The government, meanwhile, lost almost 2 billion pesos, with almost 3 million of its procured COVID-19 doses wasted. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for our news abroad, United Kingdom's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak plans to implement stricter requirement that aims to limit the entry of asylum seekers to the country. However, critics and the United Nations Refugee Agency condemns the proposed measures. Joselito Liquido details why live. Yes, Joselito?
Good evening, Kath. This past Tuesday, December 13, UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced a list of changes to deny entry for migrants entering the country by small boats and to implement stricter requirements for people claiming to be victims of modern slavery. He defended his statement, saying that those who benefit from the country's generosity are not the ones who flee from war zones or at risk of prosecution, but people crossing the channel in a small boat that are coordinated by organized criminals. Mr. Sunak also plans to arrange alternative sites to house asylum seekers in light of the government's expenditures on hotels after the Manston Processing Center has been overcrowded.
It's unfair and appalling that we are spending £5.5 million every day on using hotels to house asylum seekers. We must end this. So we will shortly bring forward a range of alternative sites such as disused holiday parks, former student halls and surplus military sites.
Meanwhile, Kath, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR's Assistant High Commissioner for Protection, Gillian Tiggs, said that limiting asylum for those who arrived through legal routes goes against the principles of the 1951 Refugee Convention. Other critics also called the Prime Minister's announcement as cruel and ineffective, and that it will only cause more misery to thousands of already traumatized people. The planned actions include sending back thousands of Albanians back to their home countries who fled to Britain seeking asylum. Mr. Sunak also claims that UK system would still help those who are genuinely in need and most vulnerable, and that safe and legal routes would be created for refugees once the country has proper control of its borders. Kath?
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, reporting live from Malaysia. A total of 21 warplanes sent by China, 18 of which were nuclear-capable H-6 bomber aircrafts, were seen at Taiwan's Southwest Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, in a 24-hour span between Monday morning and Tuesday morning, according to Taiwan's Defense Ministry. An ADIZ is defined under international law as an extending 12 nautical miles or more than 22 kilometers from a territory shoreline. China has vowed to reunify Taiwan to its mainland by force if necessary, and claims that the island of 24 million people is part of its territory even though China never controlled Taiwan. Beijing continues to put pressure on Taiwan, especially this year, after United States House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the island in August. China then started to conduct their military exercises by sending fighter jets across the median line of the Taiwan Strait. After U.S. President Joe Biden described his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping as open and candid during the G20 summit in Indonesia, it removed doubt of China's possible invasion of Taiwan. The Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, or BJMP, allowed the resumption of face-to-face visitation of persons deprived of liberty in jails under its jurisdiction. Janice Inhente will tell us why.
Families of persons deprived of liberty, or PDLs, can now physically visit them in jails after 2 years of being halted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, or BJMP spokesperson Colonel Xavier Solda, jails under its jurisdiction are now open for face-to-face visitation. However, only 25% of the total PDL population of the facility shall be allowed to avail of in-person visit in a single day.
Ang point of consideration natin dyan, of course, is yung available space, no, doon sa mga jails natin for the conduct of the face-to-face visitation. Or hindi po pwede na isahan lang lahat ho ng mga PDL, yung mga visitor nila, ay accommodate natin. In fact, pineg po namin sa 25%, no, ng total jail population yung pwedeng makadalaw muna, kasi hindi lang naman ho health concern ang natin siguruhin, kundi yung security concerns din sa facility po natin.
Only immediate family members of a PDL shall be allowed to avail the contact visitation, provided that their names are included in the approved visitors list of the jail facility. Visiting hours are on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday only from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., while weekend schedule is from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Doon ho sa visitation process ho natin, from Tuesday to Thursday, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. ho. And then ang Monday and Friday ho natin, yan ho naman yung oras ng mga PDL para maglinis ng facility, iayos ho, no? Mag-disinfect sila. Kasi nga ho, meron na ho tayo mga bisita na pumapasok ng ating jails. And then, kailangan din ho nating siguruhin, no, na yun ho mga papasok, nasa records ho ng facility, kasi priority ho muna natin yung mga pamilya ng ating hong mga PDL.
Meanwhile, BJMP reminded that visitors must be vaccinated against COVID-19 and should bring proof of their vaccination. For those who are not vaccinated due to health reasons or religious beliefs, should present negative RT-PCR result within 72 hours or negative antigen test within 24 hours of their visit. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The new National Irrigation Administration or NIA Administrator Eduardo Guillen wants to lessen the production cost of rice in the country. The official noted that this is achievable by helping farmers with their needs through financial, seeds, fertilizer, irrigation, and machinery assistance options. Guillen noted that with these measures, production costs can be cut by 50%. It will also triple the income of farmers and rice can be sold as low as 20 pesos per kilogram. The NIA chief said that he will push projects that will help fight poverty in the country.
Sabihin naman 6.75 ang production cost mo ng palay, pwedeng 20 pesos na ibenta mo yung bigas.
Tricycle drivers estimates that the 1,000 peso fuel subsidy they will expect to receive from the government will be enough for their 3-day fuel expenses. JP Nunes will tell us why.
The Department of Transportation or DOTR vowed to expedite the release of fuel subsidy for tricycle drivers, which is around 600,000 drivers in total. The department said it aims to finish disbursement of the fund until January next year.
I have instructed LTFRB and the regional directors to work closely with the LGUs, and we are expecting that we will be able to pay around 60% by end of the year, and we will endeavor to complete the full payment by middle of January 2023.
However, as compared with the 6,500 fuel assistance received by jeepney operators, tricycle drivers will receive 1,000 pesos as they spend lesser fuel than them. To the members of the Tricycle Operators and Drivers Association or TODA, the 1,000 peso fuel subsidy will only last for 3 days. This is their estimate with the price of gasoline ranging from 62 pesos to 65 pesos per liter as they consume around 4 to 5 liters a day.
3 days lang namin ay kakarga yung 1,000 na yun. Pero kulang pa rin, hindi pa sapat. Kasi
hindi po sapat?
Kaya mahal ang bilihin ngayon, saka mahal ang gasolina.
Mataas talaga?
Mataas talaga.
Ang 1,000 po, 3 araw lang po sirang napakinabangan po namin kasi medyo mahal kasing gasolina po ngayon eh. 3 araw lang talaga yung sapat na yung ubos na talaga yung 1,000 po yun.
On a message sent by the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board to UNTV News, Executive Director Roberto Peig said they were instructed by the DOTR to expedite the release of the fuel subsidy. They also utilized their employees from their regional offices to expedite the process of collecting information and documents of tricycle drivers from local government units. In a previous statement of the DOTR, the department said it already disbursed fuel subsidy to around 20,000 tricycle drivers, which is 3% of the target beneficiaries. JP Nunes, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Angelo Timoteo Molina, a former member of the Camarines Norte Provincial Board, has been fined by the Sandigan Bayan over failure to account for cash advances he received for his official travels in March 2007. Sandigan Bayan 2nd Division Associate Justice Oscar Herrera, in a 3-page decision promulgated on December 7, has found Molina guilty of failure to render accounts of his official trips under Article 218 of the Revised Penal Code in relation to Section 89 of Presidential Decree Number 1445 or the Government Auditing Code. However, the actual amount of the unaccounted cash advance was not mentioned. The Sandigan Bayan has ordered Molina to pay the penalty of 1,000 pesos and the provincial government a total of 25,517. The proposed Senate Bill 1573 that aims to lower the age of senior citizen at 56 in the country receives mixed reviews from different sectors. Bernadette Tinoy tells us why.
Roberto Soles has been working for almost 2 decades in construction industry. A year before turning 56 years old, Roberto has experienced body aches and thought of needing a medical assistance or benefit.
Matulungan nila ako. Mag-ano na ako sa ganito trabaho. Kasi hanggat amano na ako, may edad na ako, ganun. Marami na rin ako naramdaman sa katawan ko na.
Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. proposed the Senate Bill 1573 that will lower the age of senior citizen in the country. This would be a privilege for workers like Roberto to avail senior citizen benefits.
Kung sakali tulungan na ako magkaroon ng sa hospital, ang inano ko lang, tulungan lang ako, maningin lang, lang ako ng gamot, ganun, yung libreng gamot.
One of the benefits in obtaining a senior citizen card is the privilege of getting free medical assistance in public hospitals and clinics. Senior citizen can also avail a discounted amount in recreational facilities like parks and museums. Discounts in restaurant, transportation, and groceries are also included in senior citizens' privilege as part of the exemption from value-added tax. Meanwhile, Employers Confederation of the Philippines or ECOP President Sergio Ortiz doesn't understand the purpose of the proposed bill.
Hindi ko international ibababa mo and then government will lose a lot of taxes sa VAT dahil exemption yung mga localities naman, yung cities na nagbibigay ng benefits din sa LGUs sa senior citizen, dadami rin yung senior citizen. It might put a strain on their, So, sa totoo, productive po yung mga yun, hindi pa naman retired.
Economic expert Dr. Carlos Manapat also asked where will the fund will come from.
Mag-appropriate sila ng funds para mabigyan yung lower than 60 hanggang sa 56 years old. Ang positive nun, matutulungan niya yung mga tao as early as 56 years old, 56 hanggang 59. Ang negative doon, yung funding niya. Meron bang appropriations yung government?
Office of the Senior Citizens Affairs Officer in Charge, Attorney Bayanihan, states that the proposed bill should balance its effects.
Madami po talaga nag-a-apply sa amin na wala pang 60. Gusto na makakuha kagad ng senior citizens card para maka-avail sila ng 20% discount.
The proposed budget allocation for senior citizens is at 26 billion pesos. This will cover the monthly stipend for every senior citizen in the country with 500 pesos. Bernadette Tinoy, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A recent study shows that obesity, a global epidemic at the present, is increasing people's risk of cancer. Annie Mancilia explains why live. Annie?
Good evening, Kat. A direct link between obesity and one common cancer, breast cancer, after menopause was drawn by Dr. Marcia A. Moses and her lab at the Boston Children's Hospital. In their study published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, they provided compelling evidence that dormant tumors may trigger the formation of new blood vessels or called angiogenesis because of obesity. Through mice testing led by another expert, Dr. Rupali Roy, they found that fat cells from the obese menopausal mice were secreting higher levels of compounds that promote angiogenesis, which enables tumors to come out of dormancy and start progressing. Dr. Moses and her team has translated these findings to postmenopausal women with breast cancer. They tested the women's urine for biomarkers that indicate when a tumor has become vascularized and started growing. Ultimately, the lab's goal is to use these findings and other resources to learn more and develop therapeutics and diagnostics about obesity-related cancers in general. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Annie Mancilia, for that report live from Singapore. Price inflations in the United States eased for a second straight month in November, following a 4-decade inflation rate high earlier this year. Ryuji Sasaki will tell us why live. Yes, Ryuji?
Kath, the cost of petrol, healthcare, used cars, airline fares, and hotel rooms in the United States dropped last month, marking the smallest annual increase in inflation in nearly a year. The report from the U.S. Department of Labor on Tuesday, December 13, showed the decline in consumer price increases, paving the way for the Federal Reserve to scale back its interest rate hike on Wednesday. Senior economist Will Compernol, however, stated that the improvements may not be enough for FED Chair Jerome Powell to convince the FED to pause with the interest rate hikes soon. Grocery prices remain to be a problem, with the U.S. government estimating food prices to be up by 9.5 to 10.5% this year, compared to the usual 2% annual increase. Americans still face higher rental housing costs, but economists expect a moderation next year. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Ryuji Sasaki, for that report live from Japan. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. The Department of National Defense, or DND, expressed concern on the presence of the Chinese vessels in Iroquois Reef and Sabina Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. DND officer in charge, Undersecretary Jose Faustino Jr. said, "The President's directive is clear that we will not give up a single square inch of Philippine territory." Faustino added the government troops will continue to conduct routine maritime and aerial patrol in WPS. The presence of the said foreign vessel will be submitted to proper authorities for appropriate actions. Faustino explains that the government is open for dialogue about the said activity, which violate our sovereign rights and jurisdiction. The country would remain committed to maintaining a rules-based order in the WPS and the larger South China Sea. He reiterated that the country reserves its right to deal with any situation. The Antique Provincial Police Office, or APO, has urged on Wednesday, December 14, the foreign and local tourists planning to spend their vacation in Antique's province, upland tourist destinations, to register for their safety this holiday season. APO Information Officer Major Adolfo Pagharion mentioned it has been recommended by the Provincial Peace and Order Council, or PPOC, that the tourists going to the upland area in Barangay Aningalan and other adjacent areas in San Remigio should register this holiday season. The said registration requirement is in connection with APO Director Colonel Alexander Mariano's order to deploy additional personnel to help the police know the destinations and ensure the security of tourists and residents. This is after an encounter that happened between the police and Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army, or CPP-NPA rebels last Sunday, December 11. The PNP advised tourists to only visit resorts in Barangay Aningalan proper, which is 22 kilometers away from the town proper, up to Igbaklag Cave. Philippine Army 61st Infantry Battalion Commanding Officer Lieutenant Colonel Harold Garcia has assured during the PPOC meeting that tourists and residents should not panic because the encounter was an isolated case. Arkasang Bahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity.
Good day. I'm Brother Eli Soriano of the members of the Church of God International. I want to invite you to join us in a minute of prayer every day to pray for humanity and the whole world as we go through these perilous times. Health safety measures like washing of hands and strengthening of our immune systems may help us through this horrible predicament. There is still no precaution or cure more powerful than God's mighty intervention. And we need His intervention now more than ever. It doesn't matter what religion you are in or what denomination you belong. This is an invitation for all the people around the world who cares for the future of their family, friends, loved ones, and humanity as a whole. Everybody is welcome to pray with us. For more details, you can check out the description box below. Thank you very much, and I hope to hear from you soon. May God bless you.
Before we close, we will leave you with a word giving glory to God from the book of Hebrews chapter 10, verse 38. It says, "Now the just shall live by faith, but if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him." And those are the reasons behind the news, December 14, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am Kat de Maraos. We serve the people. We give glory to God.